iKoustic, creating quieter spaces together.
The first thing to do, always with the timber floor, if you can, put mineral wool between the joists. Second thing is to completely seal the floor. The acoustic sealant is option one. Especially if you've got old planks running one way, or poorly fitted chipboard, or even a non-tongue and groove floorboard. Seal all the joins to make sure it's completely airtight. Can be done with sealant, or cover the full floor in TechSound. TechSound is self-adhesive, so you can stick it across the whole floor. You can just tape the joins and loose lay if you want, but usually you stick it across the whole floor. It's almost like a blue tack material, so you can cut thin pieces out of it. Where you haven't got it airtight between the mats, you just hammer that into place and it'll just flatten out and give you an airtight seal. One other thing that you do before fitting any underlays on top is reduce squeaking in the floorboards. On planks, this is just done by refixing down with coarse thread timber screws to get a good fixing in. If they've just been glued and nailed, that'll come loose over time. If it's a chipboard floor, you can add watered down PVA in the joins and also then screw it back down, and again that reduces the rubbing between the joist and the floorboard, and also the floorboards themselves in the tongue and grooves. If you don't use adhesive in there, they'll start to rub and start to squeak. You can use an ordinary carpet underlay. However, usually a carpet underlay is going to be an open cell chip foam. Open cell chip foams, they will absorb water. They also won't last as long as a closed cell virgin foam. The closed cell foams keep the bubbles inside of the material, which means it takes more to compress them. When you think about when you walk across a carpet underlay, your heel will just about touch that subfloor. When you use a closed cell foam with something like the MuteMat 2, with the mass loaded vinyl, that'll spread the load over the top of the closed cell foam. It means you still have give left in the product after walking over the top of it, so the impact sound is reduced from travelling down. So we've got the 2-layer mat there that has the closed cell foam and the 7.5 kilo per square metre mass loaded vinyl on top. It's always blue side down, and that's the MuteMat 2 layers. We've also got the MuteMat 3 layers. It's got the 7.5 kilo mass loaded vinyl, 6mm closed cell foam, and then another 5 kilo mass loaded vinyl on the bottom. The more mass, the more airborne sound that you will reduce. So with that product, the higher mass, the more separated mass, the more airborne sound you're going to reduce in comparison. At this end of the table, you've got impact reduction mats. All of these are made to deflect under compression. So when you step on it, it will compress. All three of them. At this end, you've got a harder rubber. You can lay laminate flooring directly over the top of this because the compression is at 14% per 2 tonne per square metre. So a very dense rubber. It's going to still be good for timber construction as well, because it will deflect. These are the best for timber construction as they will deflect more, but the more deflection, you may need to be careful with a very thin 1mm vinyl or something when using the ones that compress a little bit more. The lower cost option is the rubber 750 kilo per cubic metre MuteMat OSF. The highest performing option is the MuteMat 3. It's got the 3-ply, 2 layers of mass loaded vinyl and the closed cell foam. You get the most deflection out of that for the impact reduction, whilst not deflecting all the way to zero. and high mass for airborne reduction as well. Second, you have the MuteMat 2. Very similar performance on impact actually to the MuteMat 3, but not quite as heavy. Only one layer of the mass loaded vinyl, but still the 6mm closed cell foam on there. So that'd be the second highest performing. And then you've got the 10mm rubber mat as well. That's the MuteMat OSF 750-10, primarily for impact reduction. Great on concrete. We do have thinner options for concrete, but on the timber floors, the 10mm is what we recommend because the 5mm doesn't deflect enough to reduce enough impact sound for it to be significantly, a significant reduction. These are the three products here are for airborne reduction primarily. You've got the 10 kilo mass loaded vinyl, that's 4mm thick. The more mass you add, the more airborne sound you reduce. So especially on lightweight timber constructions, this is where the mute barrier 10 kg is used. It does come in a 5 kilo option as well. That's 2mm thick. These are often used, all three of these are often used in conjunction with our MuteMat 2 and MuteMat 3 to add additional airborne reduction. The tech sound, we did mention it, with it seals the floorboards because it's really easy to get an airtight seal on the tech sound. Also vibration dampening because it's a viscoelastic membrane. You use that always on the bottom layer adhered to the timber floor. And that's because it's vibration dampening. Hard surfaces will transfer vibrations a lot more than soft surfaces. So when you apply it down to the hard surface, it'll absorb vibrations from that surface. You're then ready to lay your other layers on top of this for further sound reduction. With flooring finishes, there's a number of considerations you need to take into account, namely the compression of the product. So with a very thin ceramic tile, you wouldn't go on top of something that will compress quite a lot underfoot because you run the risk of breaking the ceramic tile. In that situation, you lay a 6mm to 9mm ply over the top of the high compression MuteMat 2 and MuteMat 3, and then you can glue that down with the Mapai VS90, and then you can lay on top of the ply. With the engineered wood flooring, that can go directly on top of any of them. Woven carpet is absolutely fine on top of them.
iKoustic, creating quieter spaces together.